So, I want to welcome you guys back, and I want to say you're probably very familiar with the requirements for Project 2. And one of the pieces of Project 2 is that you want to stimulate a lot of buying, and there's probably a lot of buying that's happening inside of your system. So for example, your buyer is building the random portfolio. What's interesting to me is I would like for that portfolio to be built, but then for every transaction that you make inside of your portfolio, I'd like for you to go back into that portfolio and to say for every stock that's inside of your portfolio, for every transaction, I want you to go into the market and I want you to increase the price of that stock that was just bought. Now that will simulate what happens on the market where once there's demand for something, price goes up. And when demand disappears, discounts start to take place. So that's something I'd like to see happen. So roughly the algorithm, and I'm still in main right here. I'm going to do a bit more work inside of main. I was saying, well, look, you're going to make your buyer, and then the next thing is go ahead and take a look at each transaction inside of his or her portfolio, and then go ahead and print that out and see, what happens there. And let's just kind of get over it and let's see what's happening with that. And if I've got some errors, then so be it. Let's run that. Let's run that as a Java app. Good. So here's somewhat of our, so I'd like to take a look at that null pointer. And I think this needs to kind of, be present for me to jump down there. So if it's null for that transaction inside of the portfolio to be null, I could also build that random portfolio. See, roughly what happens is we do this, and then before it gets finished, it jumps in here. And that's why I'm getting a null pointer. So there's a couple things I could do. If I could say if b dot portfolio is not null, which it will not be, then you can jump into this kind of price increasing, experience right here, and we could probably, push that over a little bit, format it right, and that would maybe avoid the null pointer. And let's go kind of give that a run. Yeah, so that's kind of surviving a little bit better. And what that's doing is it's actually searching inside of the market, and it's increasing the stock value for everything that just got bought. And we'll let that kind of run a little bit because the printing and the system out slows it down a little bit. So what I just did is I said, well, look, we've got this market, and what we're going to do is so long as your portfolio is not null, go ahead and take a look at each transaction inside of that portfolio. And just to kind of prove that it's working, just kind of print the symbol of everything inside of your portfolio. Now, the reason why this is taking a long time is we got 10,000, we got 100,000 buyers to accommodate, which is kind of exciting. You guys are working with some big data at this point, which is kind of the way that things work. So I'll just kind of put that in the back burner. Try to get it out of our way. We say, well, look, get inside of that portfolio and say, all right, grab the symbol of that transaction. Then what I want you to do is I want you to search the market for that stock, and then when the symbol in the portfolio equals the symbol in the market, go ahead and generate a new random number and then increase the price of that stock in the market. Does that make sense? Isn't that kind of the rule? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but isn't that kind of the rule that you and I were talking about? It's kind of translated back into code. That's kind of what we're looking at. Now, I don't know if this is ready yet. And in some ways, I try to make this class kind of like the cooking show of programming, but the problem with the cooking shows is that everything's finished. So probably I'll need to make another video and kind of catch up with you after you've made some changes here. But I encourage you to pause the video a little bit and experiment with this right here. Now, from the last video, I was trying to run, a different method, and I've since erased that. I've considered a different route, and I like this right now. And it may take a little while for it to cook and, get finished. But what I'll do is when I'm finished, I'll update and I'll tell you how it went. But that was probably valuable to go over how to avoid a null pointer. But another strategy would just be to say, well, look, if you're going to build that random portfolio, and let's go into that build random, is it necessary to have a void right there? Because in truth, we could have a Boolean that we could say, okay, start the Boolean as false, and when you're finished with build random portfolio, turn it to true. And that would be a good way of saying, okay, don't exit build random portfolio until it's finished. And so if I have any trouble, that may be a route that I go down, depending upon how that goes. So anyway, let me give you a little time to work and maybe try to take a look at this little algorithm that's happening right here. And we'll see how it goes. We'll get back to you. And don't forget to subscribe.